The story of Caleb, a God-fearing man, begins in the book of Numbers. After being released from slavery in Egypt, God led the Israelites to the border of Canaan, a land flowing with milk and honey that God had promised them they would inherit. Exodus 3:8. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand, power of the Egyptians, and to bring them up from that land to a land that is good and spacious, to a land flowing with milk and honey, a land of plenty, to the place of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite. Exodus 3:17. So I said, I will bring you up out of the suffering and oppression of Egypt, to the land of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, to a land flowing with milk and honey. Moses had assigned 12 men, one from each tribe, to scout the land before entering it. Caleb, representing the tribe of Judah, was among them. The 12 men scouted the land for 40 days before returning to Moses. They reported that the land was indeed fruitful, but its inhabitants were the powerful Anak descendants. Fearful of the Canaanites' size and strength, 10 of the spies advised Moses not to enter Canaan. Numbers 13:23-33. When they came to the valley of Eshcol, cluster of grapes, and from there cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes, and they carried it on a pole between two of them, with some of pomegranates and the figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol, cluster of grapes, because of the cluster of grapes which the sons of Israel cut down there. When they returned from spying out the land, at the end of 40 days, they came to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation of the sons of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh, and brought back word to them and to all the congregation, and showed them the land's fruit. They reported to Moses and said, We went in to the land where you sent us, and it certainly does flow with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. But the people who live in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified, walled, and very large. Moreover, we saw there the descendants of Anak, people of great stature and courage. The people descended from Amalek live in the land of the Negev, south country. The Hittite, the Jebusite, and the Amorite live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live by the Dead Sea and along the side of the Jordan. Then Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, Let us go up at once and take possession of it, for we will certainly conquer it. But the men who had gone up with him said, We are not able to go up against the people of Canaan, for they are too strong for us. So they gave the Israelites a bad report about the land which they had spied out, saying, The land through which we went, in spying it out, is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. There we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak are part of the Nephilim, and we were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight. We should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it, Caleb said, silencing the murmuring, fearful men. Numbers 13:30. Caleb took a stand because he wholeheartedly followed the Lord. Joshua 14:8-9. My brothers, fellow spies, who went up with me, made the heart of the people melt with fear. But I followed the Lord my God completely. 9. So Moses swore an oath to me on that day, saying, Be assured that the land on which your foot has walked will be an inheritance to you and to your children always, because you have followed the Lord my God completely. Caleb was aware of God's promises to the Israelites, and despite his own observations of the obstacles, he had faith that God would grant them victory over the Canaanites. Unfortunately, the Israeli people ignored Caleb and instead listened to the reports of the other spies. They were so terrified that they cried all night and even wished they had died at the hands of their Egyptian slave masters. Numbers 14, 1-4. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron. And the whole congregation said unto them, Would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God we had died in this wilderness? And wherefore hath the Lord brought us unto this land, to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be a prey? Were it not better for us to return into Egypt? And they said one to another, Let us make a captain, and let us return into Egypt. They turned on Caleb and Joshua, Ephraim's spy, and planned to stone them on the spot. Numbers 14, 6-10. Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, who were among those who scouted out the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite community, The land we passed through and explored is an extremely good land. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us into this land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and give it to us. Only don't rebel against the Lord, and don't be afraid of the people of the land, for we will devour them. Their protection has been removed from them, and the Lord is with us. Don't be afraid of them. While the whole community threatened to stone them, the glory of the Lord appeared to all the Israelites at the tent of meeting. God was furious with the people and threatened to destroy them unless Moses interceded on their behalf. God relented, but he also decreed that the people would wander in the wilderness until the entire faithless generation died. But God said, My servant Caleb has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly, and promised him ownership of all the land he had seen as a spy. Numbers 14, 11-25. And the Lord said to Moses, How long will these people treat me with contempt? Will they never believe me, even after all the miraculous signs I have done among them? I will disown them and destroy them with a plague. Then I will make you into a nation greater and mightier than they are. But Moses objected. What will the Egyptians think when they hear about it? He asked the Lord. They know full well the power you displayed in rescuing your people from Egypt. Now, if you destroy them, the Egyptians will send a report to the inhabitants of this land, who have already heard that you live among your people. They know, Lord, that you have appeared to your people face to face, and that your pillar of cloud hovers over them. They know that you go before them in the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. Now, if you slaughter all these people with a single blow, the nations that have heard of your fame will say, The Lord was not able to bring them into the land he swore to give them, so he killed them in the wilderness. Please, Lord, prove that your power is as great as you have claimed. For you said, the Lord is slow to anger and filled with unfailing love, forgiving every kind of sin and rebellion. But he does not excuse the guilty. He lays the sins of the parents upon their children. The entire family is affected, even children in the 3rd and 4th generations. In keeping with your magnificent, unfailing love, please pardon the sins of these people, just as you have forgiven them ever since they left Egypt." Then the Lord said, "I will pardon them as you have requested, but as surely as I live, and as surely as the earth is filled with the Lord's glory, not one of these people will ever enter that land. They have all seen my glorious presence and the miraculous signs I performed both in Egypt and in the wilderness. But again and again they have tested me by refusing to listen to my voice. They will never ever see the land I swore to give their ancestors. None of those who have treated me with contempt will ever see it. But my servant Caleb has a different attitude than the others have. He has remained loyal to me, so I will bring him into the land he explored. His descendants will possess their full share of that land. Now, turn around and don't go on toward the land where the Amalekites and Canaanites live. Tomorrow, you must set out for the wilderness in the direction of the Red Sea." The Israelites wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, until all but Joshua and Caleb died. Numbers 14, 29-30. Your dead bodies will fall in this wilderness, even all who were numbered of you, your entire number from 20 years old and upward, who have murmured against me. 30. Except for Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, the son of Nun, not one of you shall enter the land in which I swore an oath to settle you. Caleb was 85 years old after 40 years of wandering and 5 more years of war with Canaan. But he was as strong as ever and able to fight the same Anakites who had terrified his countrymen. His assurance stemmed from his unwavering faith in God's promises. Joshua 15, 13-14. Now to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, Joshua gave a portion among the sons of Judah, as the Lord commanded him, namely Kiriath Arba, Arba being the father of Anak, that is Hebron. 14. So Caleb drove out from there the 3 sons of Anak, Sheshai and Ahiman and Talmai, the children of Anak. Caleb's territory in Canaan included Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. Arba was the forefather of Anak. From Hebron, Caleb drove out the 3 Anakites, Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai, the sons of Anak. From there, he marched against the people living in Debir, formerly called Kiriath Sepher. Joshua 15, 13-15. Caleb's nephew Othniel kidnapped Kiriath Sepher and was given Caleb's daughter Aksah to marry. Later, Aksah asked her father to include some water springs in her inheritance, and Caleb granted her request. Caleb's son-in-law, Othniel, later became Israel's first judge. Judges 3, 7-11. And the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord, and they forgot the Lord their God and served the Baals and the Asheroth. So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia, and the Israelites served Cushan-Rishathaim 8 years. But when the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help, the Lord raised up a man to rescue the people of Israel, Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he judged Israel. He went out to war, and the Lord gave Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia, into his hand, and he prevailed over Cushan-Rishathaim. And the land was at rest from oppression for 40 years. Then Othniel, the son of Kenaz, died. According to the accounts of Caleb's life, he was a faithful man who trusted God to fulfill his promises when others let their fears override their small faith. Caleb remained steadfast in his faith, even in his later years. Caleb was blessed by God for his faithfulness and patience, which is an encouragement to us to believe in God. Like Caleb, we should be ready to follow God in any situation, patiently waiting for him to fulfill his promises and ready to act when the time comes. As Israel drew closer to the Jordan River, Moses dispatched 12 spies to scout the Promised Land. Each of Israel's 12 tribes sent a spy into Canaan to explore the land and report back. Although all 12 had the same external experiences, the internal conclusions of 10 of them differed significantly from the other 2. Joshua and Caleb filed the minority report, and they were correct. What could account for these divergences in opinion? What were the similarities? First, all 12 spies were leaders in their tribes, 13:2. Second, all 12 spies received the same promise, 13:2. Third, all 12 spies received the same opportunities. Numbers 13:2. Send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the children of Israel. From each tribe of their fathers you shall send a man, every one a leader among them. Only Jacob and Caleb said go, understood their mission, and saw circumstances in light of their God. After they returned, 10 of the spies had a terrible attitude toward the whole thing. It's easy to see why. God is nowhere to be found in their report. They don't even mention his name once. Their glum demeanor, pessimistic outlook, and negative report spread like wildfire throughout the Israelite camp. It was a land flowing with milk and honey, but there were giants in it, they exclaimed. There is no way we can enter and possess it. Despite the fact that Joshua and Caleb made the same trip and saw the same things as the other 10 spies, they returned with an enthusiastic, positive report. They never doubted the Israelites' ability to conquer the land. Their glowing report was based on God's track record with the nation throughout the desert. They freely admitted the difficulties, but they knew that nothing could stop God. The major difference: attitude. The only distinction between those who delivered majority and minority reports was an internal one. Their divergent reports reflected opposing attitudes toward the land, the divine promises, the Canaanite people, the work involved, the Lord, and themselves. Consider the majority's viewpoint. They believed the land had no future and utterly ignored God in their report. As a result, these 10 skeptics sowed fear throughout Israel's camp. Their rotten attitudes infected the entire congregation, and the spiritual contagion became uncontrollable. Take note of who was blamed for the nation's negative reaction. Our brethren have discouraged our hearts, saying, "The people are greater and taller than we." Deuteronomy 1:28. This ancient commission, through a negative majority report, deprived nearly 2 million people of their inheritance in Canaan. The Israelites were driven back into the wilderness to die as a result of their poisonous influence, and God delayed fulfilling his purpose for his chosen people for 40 frustrating years. If they had only listened to the minority, consider their far superior demeanor. They obeyed God and insisted they should enter and possess the land. As a result, Caleb and Joshua survived to usher in a new era, while the other 10 spies perished in the wilderness with the rest of that unbelieving generation's adults. Attitude makes all the difference.